Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Archie's Briefings. I'm your host, Arshel Branch, and today, you guys, we are going to continue this conversation on the insurance crisis that is, in my opinion, sweeping the nation. I do see that this has become a big part of what we're talking about in these recent days because of the wildfires. And so I just want to keep on having this conversation because one of the things that I find to be problematic is that we don't really address the issues when they start. We have our reasons for why we don't have these conversations sooner rather than later. It seems that it takes a tragedy to have these conversations as to, well, how did this happen? What have we done to get to this point? And what can we do collectively to get out of this problem? I will say that I've never been happier to be a life insurance agent because when I look at these problems with the homeowners insurance, my goodness, I'm glad I'm not in that market. There's a lot of problems with this, and we are going to discuss that today. But before we go ahead and do that, I want you to take the time to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like this video, share this video, and hit that notification bell so that way you never miss an episode. So without further ado, you guys, let's go ahead and let's dive into it, talking about the insurance crisis sweeping the United States. Let's go ahead and let's talk about it, shall we? There is something that has been on my heart that I did want to discuss. Discipline is a huge part of being productive, being lucrative. I'm not for anything that goes against true productivity, true sovereignty of the individual. The choices that we make are what's going to be up for judgment. Okay, you guys, so as I said in the opening, today we're going to be talking about the insurance crisis that's happening all over across the United States of America. This has become a big part of the conversation simply because of what happened with the wildfires in California. Now, in the last episode that I posted, you guys, we did talk about how we got here to some degree, that when you look at what's been the case with the insurance companies as it relates to homeowners insurance, that a lot of these companies were pulling back their coverage or leaving the state of California because of these high risks, particularly with the wildfires. And what does that mean when you're looking at homeowners insurance? Because again, if it's not just happening in California and it's happening across the country, what does that mean for the consumer? Because again, it's happening in California, it's happening in Colorado, it's happening in Washington, it's happening in Louisiana. There's a big conversation, okay? Homeowners insurance is just going through it right now. And so are the citizens of this country, the consumer. We're struggling, and we have to understand why that is the case. Now, I've listened to some of the arguments by the insurance companies. I've listened to multiple insurance commissioners from different states saying that it's because of the high rising cost of houses. So the cost to build these houses, that plays a role. Inflation, that plays a role. The increase of natural disasters or just disasters, period, whether they are man-provoked, like what we see in California, or if they are natural disasters, like what you see in Florida when it comes to the hurricanes, right? So it is becoming an issue, has been an issue for quite some time. And so why do I want to have this conversation? I'm a bit obsessed with this subject, actually, a bit obsessed. On the left, they think it's because of climate change. That's ridiculous. And if you're a person of faith, you could just be thinking, we in them days, it's the last days, and that means a lot of these disasters are going to be a huge thing. So whether you think it's because we're in those days, or you think it's because of climate change, at the end of the day, we are seeing a major increase in these natural disasters, and the insurance companies have to be able to account for that risk when they're providing coverage, if they're providing these coverages. And that takes us into this clip that I want to show you on Fox News by Maria. It's actually from Fox Business. I'm going to play this clip for you guys because she kind of goes into the crisis, how this became a big part of the conversation because of the wildfire. So before I go any further, let's go ahead and let's run that clip, shall we?
At least 20 looters have been arrested for taking advantage of these fire victims who had to abandon their homes. And then on top of that, residents there are facing an insurance crisis. Fox Business's Ashley Webster is live from Palm Coast, Florida this morning with more on that angle. Ashley.
Yeah, good morning to you, Maria. Look, we know that now thousands of structures have been destroyed by those wildfires, leaving homeowners with nothing but charred remains.
There's going to be an extraordinary number of claims being filed, and probably, from my experience as 8 years of insurance commissioner, the insurance companies are going to do everything they can to lowball and deny claims.
Well, insurers in California.
Let's just talk about that part first, that a lot of people are going to be filing in their claims. Obviously, homes were just burnt down. And so what does that mean for the consumer? What does it mean for the insurance companies? Well, here's the thing. To what I've learned so far is that there's going to be a lot of lawsuits. I think they're going to suffer from a lot of lawsuits. A lot of people are not going to just stand there and be told no, I'm not going to get nothing. No, they're going to fight for their money. They're going to fight for what they believe is theirs. And they have every right to. It's like, hello, why should I be penalized because the state mismanaged the forest? Why should I be penalized and lose my coverage or not get any kind of security after this event, this wildfire? Why should I lose that protection because Gavin Newsom and Mayor Bass didn't do their job? And so, because these insurance companies may not be paying out on these claims, you're going to see a lot of lawsuits in the coming days after, I would say, the fires have dimmed down a bit. You're going to see a lot of lawsuits. In my opinion, I think that's what's going to happen. I just feel like that's just what's going to be the case. I'm going to let it go on.
California have been refusing to write new policies in areas considered high risk for wildfires. According to the California Department of Insurance, between 2020 and 2022, insurance companies declined to renew 2.8 million homeowner policies in the state. That includes
Part of me wants to say there's a significant reason for why 2020 to 2022, what just happened this last election. I'll leave it there and let you guys figure that out.
Includes 531,000 in fire-ravaged LA County. Consumer advocates, though, claim that has nothing to do with losing money.
The fact of the matter is, insurance companies in California, home insurers specifically, are more profitable than the nationwide average.
But the insurance industry says inflation and the high cost of reinsurance leads to higher prices that cannot be capped.
There are never caps on insurance costs due to the fluctuating economy. So insurance has to be able to pay out claims.
Yeah, but those insurance premiums are getting more and more expensive, as we know. Under new California regulations, once a fire emergency has been declared, insurance companies cannot cancel homeowners coverage in that fire area and in the surrounding zip codes for a full year. The state is also forcing private insurers to write more policies in high-risk areas.
Okay, so that's enough of that. First thing we're going to do is talk about them pulling the coverage. In the last episode I posted, I did say these are the reasons why they were pulling their coverage. They don't make enough money to be able to cover these damages because it seems like it's a frequent thing that these risks, like the wildfires, seem to be happening so often that we can't provide proper coverage, full coverage, so we're going to pull it. They've also increased they won't allow the insurance companies, to increase premiums to make up the difference for inflation, for the fact that these are risks. These are riskier areas, and this is becoming a part of the problem. Why you saw a lot of these insurance companies leaving, why you saw them pulling their coverage of these homeowners and business owners. And you have people who are out there who are just thinking that these insurance companies are just evil. That's what this woman was suggesting, right? Oh, but the homeowners insurance have never been more profitable. You just see a number, a dollar value, but you're not thinking about the cost of inflation. You're not thinking about the cost of the housing to rebuild a house. And then are these insurance companies able to get their insurance? That's what the reinsurance thing is about. If I cover a high risk area, is the insurance company, the reinsurance companies, the programs of reinsurance, going to provide us what we need as the insurance companies if we cover these high risks? That's what takes us into some of these solutions coming to you by some of the left from the Democrat side, that they like the idea of a state-funded reinsurance program forcing these insurance companies to provide coverage to these high-risk areas, telling insurance companies that they are not allowed to increase the prices on premiums to make up for costs of inflation. This is only going to hurt the insurance companies. They're going to be forced to be operating at a loss, and no business wants to do that. So they're going to leave, because if we keep operating at a loss, they're going to end up broke.
I got no money.
So if I have no money because I've paid out all of these claims for an issue that we knew was an issue, that we did nothing to minimize the risk to prevent this problem, then how am I supposed to make money as a business if I'm an insurance company? How am I supposed to provide full coverage to a home that is in a high risk zone? And I'm supposed to give lower premiums to people who live in high risk zones and allocate the expensive premium to people who live in low risk zones? How is that fair? Seems like these disasters are becoming more and more frequent, and insurance companies simply don't know how to deal with the rise in these disasters. It's not their fault. Now, if there's a place in history that we can look at where insurance companies were able to solve this problem, well, then let's use that precedent. But if it's not inexistent, if it's never happened before, you can't expect the insurance companies to know how to deal with this issue and not have these problems. But to have too much state involvement is where my biggest issue comes in. When we look at state-funded reinsurance programs, this is one of the things that bothers me. Telling companies that they can't increase pricing to deal with the financial problems that I just listed, as well as state-funded reinsurance programs, which obviously is going to be a burden on the taxpayer. You're going to increase taxes to make sure that insurance companies get their insurance. So we're just going to do with them like what we did with the banks. What happens when you have a major disaster like we're seeing now? What happens when it hits multiple states? If it happens in multiple states, like the hurricane didn't just hit Florida, it hit other states, but you have a state-funded reinsurance program where now these taxpayers have increased taxes to go towards that. But now what happens when they can't pay out all the claims? What happens when they end up broke and they're looking for a bailout? You're going to put the state in debt over this. You're going to give a bailout to the insurance companies over this. So we're looking at major bailouts for insurance companies if we're looking at either federal mandated, state-funded reinsurance programs. And I got an issue with that. I already don't like the bankers because of what happened with 2008, okay? The biggest bailout that the United States has ever seen for the banks, okay? And now we're talking about doing the same thing with insurance companies. And if the people already have questions and problems with the homeowners insurance companies or with insurance, period, then why the hell do you think the American people are going to stand idly by while you give them access to more money that you shouldn't even be able to just give out like that? Stop printing the money like that. You gave out mad bailouts to the banks. We don't need another entity in the financial system that can also get bailouts. There's always the banks and now the insurance companies. Yeah, I ain't with it. Adam Schiff may be for it. I am not. Okay, there are solutions to this where you don't actually have to increase taxes on the citizen, where you don't actually have to put that burden on the people, at least not the taxpayers, not with these state-funded programs. You don't have to make it harder for the insurance companies. There's got to be a better way of doing this, right? That doesn't mean putting the burden on we, the people, at such an unprecedented rate.
And the price is deferred. Let the next generation foot the bill.
So the first thing that I think that could be done, at least in trying to keep premiums reasonable, is to provide discounts or some kind of a benefit, some kind of benefit system for those homeowners who are interested in taking action, giving them the incentive to take action to minimize the risk as the individual homeowner or business owner, providing those discounts and those financial incentives. That's going to encourage them to be able to bring it down. And that way, when you do take on the risk as the insurance company, you know that the person you're giving it to is bringing down an incredible risk. Now, there are some states, I believe it's the state of Washington, they have minimized that risk individually and as a community, and still the insurance companies were still not taking on those high risk areas. So what else can be done about this? Well, the areas that are the high risk, I believe, can also pool their resources. You can create a regional pool sharing of the risk where these regions, whether within the state or different states, pool together, where you have the insurance companies spread the risk among themselves, as well as the policyholders spread the risk among themselves, keeping premium rates low. And with those discounts, that's going to be incredibly helpful, that in the event of a major disaster, they have the opportunity to have that funding made available to those who are most affected in the high risk zones. Okay, so pooling and sharing risk among insurance companies and policyholders, that's a way, providing discounts and financial incentives to encourage the homeowner and business owner to take every caution that they need to protect themselves and minimize their risk. Now, the last thing that I would say as an option, what should be considered a public service, is to have some education on this, to have a insurance agent, these companies come out and educate the public on what insurance really means, what the policies look like, what full coverage is, why the numbers are the way they are, how these policies increase, why the premiums increase, why coverage gets pulled back, providing some kind of an education to the consumer so that way they are able to make the best decisions for them individually, for their businesses, for their homes and their families, simply because they were given all the information that they needed to make the best decisions for themselves. If they are informed about how insurance works, if they are informed about what the potential causes for these crises, for why they may lose coverage, they're going to start looking into other means of protecting themselves, how to minimize the risk. As a public service, I think the state and the companies, the insurance companies together, should be informing the citizen. Because I said in the last episode, we're going to start having to ask questions that we didn't think we were going to have to ask as consumers. We're going to start asking those questions, because if you're the person who goes out there and get homeowners insurance, but didn't ask, hey, am I in a zone that's a high risk zone? Is my zip code going to be a problem for you? Like, if we never thought to ask those questions, well, maybe you should contact your agent and ask them, hey, do I live in a flood zone if I live in Pennsylvania? Do I live in a high risk zone if I live in Florida, Louisiana, Washington, Colorado, obviously California? What steps can I take to minimize the risk? As the state and the people and the companies work together, these are some ideas that I've been, I think would actually work. So again, you guys, get in the comments, let me know what you think, if you think those solutions are good ones. If you have any ideas, definitely get in the comments. Tell me why you think I'm wrong. If you think you have something that's better, definitely get in the comments, because I so want to have this conversation. I'm very big on understanding what the issue is. And like I said, I've never been happier to just be a life insurance agent, because my goodness, this market just does not seem like it's a good place to be in right now. I don't know what the state of California plans on doing with this. You're going to see a lot more people get pushed into the state-backed programs like we see in California. It's the FAIR Plan. You're going to see a lot of that. I think you're going to see a lot of lawsuits coming in the near future about these claims not getting paid out. And so, let me know what some of your ideas are about what you think some solutions are. If you don't like my ideas, what ideas do you think are going to be better? And let's have that discussion, because I'm going to keep this up. I'm very curious to see what ideas that we, the people, can come up with. Sometimes it doesn't have to come from the college educated. Sometimes it doesn't even have to come from the think tank that is the government. Okay. If we can collectively solve these problems, then maybe we might actually be able to get something done. So thank you all for watching. You guys can subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, share this video, because I definitely want to encourage more of this conversation. Share this video, like this video, definitely get in the comments, because I want to know what your ideas are about this. I'm excited to see what the conversation is going to look like. It's a tragedy that what got this conversation started was a disaster. That's the sad tragedy. I think everyday people like myself should be having these conversations. I think as a community here, as people on YouTube who are in the financial space, it's time to have those conversations. And we don't have to wait for Congress, and we don't got to wait for the governors to have that conversation for us. Let's have that conversation amongst ourselves. And maybe we can do something about it. Who knows, right? Again, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Get in the comments, share this video, hit that notification bell so that way you never miss an episode. God bless you guys. Have a good night. Happy Sunday, and Kepla.